The year was 2018, and in the heart of Japan, a nation celebrated for its precision, its innovation, and its quiet dedication to advancement, an unexpected storm was brewing. It wasn't a natural disaster or an economic downturn, but something far more insidious, threatening to cast a shadow over one of its most revered institutions. Picture, if you will, the immaculate facilities of JAXA, the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. This is a place where dreams touch the stars, where engineers and scientists dedicate their lives to pushing the boundaries of human achievement, sending probes to distant asteroids, and developing rockets that whisper tales of tomorrow. Its very name evokes pride, aspiration, and the highest standards of integrity. But on a seemingly ordinary day, the quiet hum of scientific pursuit was suddenly broken by an unannounced intrusion. Officials, not from an oversight committee discussing rocket launches, but from an investigative body, descended upon JAXA. Their purpose was not to admire the wonders of space exploration, but to search for something far more terrestrial: corruption. It was a moment that sent ripples of disbelief across the nation. How could a place so dedicated to the grandest human endeavors be embroiled in something as old and regrettable as a bribery scandal? At the center of this unfolding drama were two individuals, their paths intertwining in a way that would ultimately expose a concerning vulnerability within the system. One was Kazuaki Kawabata, a politician who had been on loan to JAXA, seemingly entrusted with a role in the esteemed agency. The other was Koji Taniguchi, an executive whose ambition, it seems, led him down a path of questionable ethics. Their relationship wasn't a grand, overt conspiracy, but rather something that developed subtly, almost imperceptibly over time. It began, as many such relationships do, with shared meals, with conversations over dinner, with the clinking of glasses. Taniguchi, with an apparent eagerness to curry favor, began to entertain Kawabata. Not in a single large transaction, but through a series of gestures: expensive dinners, fine wines, thoughtful hospitality. These weren't just casual meals among colleagues. These were carefully orchestrated occasions, designed to build a bond, to foster a sense of obligation. Over many months, as Kazuaki Kawabata served his tenure at JAXA, Taniguchi plied him with what would eventually amount to 1.4 million Japanese yen. For context, that's approximately 13,000 US dollars. When you consider that sum spread across numerous meals and drinks, it paints a picture of sustained, persistent generosity, a kind of slow, steady drip designed to erode professional boundaries and cultivate personal loyalty. And loyalty, it seems, was indeed cultivated. In return for these lavish courtesies, Kawabata, leveraging his position and influence within JAXA, began to grant various favors to Taniguchi. These weren't necessarily direct financial transactions, but rather the invaluable currency of access and prestige. The most prominent of these favors involved an individual who represented the very pinnacle of JAXA's public image: an astronaut. Satoshi Furukawa, a revered figure who had soared beyond Earth's atmosphere, embodying courage and scientific achievement, was requested for an event. Not for a JAXA outreach program or a national scientific conference, but for an event at Tokyo Medical University. While a university event might seem innocuous on the surface, the key lies in the undue influence. Kawabata, using his internal sway, helped to convince Furukawa to participate. This was a significant act, as it essentially lent the immense prestige and public trust associated with a national astronaut to a private event, seemingly at the behest of someone who had invested significantly in Kawabata's goodwill. It blurred the lines between public service and private benefit, using a national asset for personal advantage. Eventually, the intricate web of favors and lavish meals began to unravel. The subtle whispers grew louder, the connections became clearer, and the investigative net tightened. When the raid on JAXA finally occurred, it was the culmination of an investigation that had meticulously pieced together these seemingly small individual acts of generosity and the subsequent reciprocal favors. Kazuaki Kawabata was ultimately arrested and charged with bribery. The evidence painstakingly gathered pointed to a clear pattern of quid pro quo. The public trust that JAXA inherently held was shaken, not by a technical failure or a mission setback, but by a very human failing. Kawabata was later found guilty and sentenced for his deceit. His sentence was a 3-year suspended sentence, meaning he wouldn't immediately go to prison, but would serve his time if he committed another offense within a set period. It was a reflection of the severity of the crime, yet also perhaps an acknowledgement of the circumstances, allowing for a chance at rehabilitation. This story, unfolding within the hallowed halls of Japan's space agency, serves as a poignant reminder that even in institutions dedicated to the grandest aspirations, human vulnerabilities persist. It highlights how corruption doesn't always appear as a briefcase full of cash in a dark alley. Sometimes it manifests subtly through a series of expensive dinners, through the gradual erosion of ethical lines, until a public servant begins to leverage their position for private gain, trading influence for hospitality. The JAXA bribery scandal wasn't just about a politician accepting $13,000 worth of meals. It was about the profound betrayal of trust, the subtle misuse of power, and the tarnishing of an image built on years of dedication and integrity. It reminds us of the constant vigilance required to protect our institutions, and the importance of remembering that even the smallest favors, when accumulated and reciprocated, can lead to significant ethical breaches. What are your thoughts on how these kinds of subtle, sustained acts of bribery can unfold? Have you encountered similar stories where the line between generosity and undue influence became blurred? We'd love to hear your perspectives in the comments below. And if you found this story thought-provoking, please consider subscribing for more deep dives into the unexpected corners of our world.